but tourism to the U.S. is on the decline. The U.S. is set to lose $12.5 billion because of it.
New trouble from abroad. There's a sharp decline in international visitors to the U.S., down at least 14% from a year ago. Tougher border controls and political tensions are blamed.
They don't feel safe. They don't feel welcome.
Canadians are the largest group of international visitors to the U.S. Most drive, but border crossings plunged 32% in March. Canadians flying in fell 13%. Relations with our northern neighbor are strained by tariffs and taunts.
July 4th, 2025, a date meant to celebrate America's freedom, just became the day its tourism economy started bleeding out. With the stroke of a pen, Washington imposed a $250 visa fee on visitors from non-waiver countries. A small price on paper, but a sledgehammer to a $1.9 trillion industry built on open doors and global appeal. In the weeks since, city after city has begun to crack. Airports quieter, hotel lobbies echoing, festivals canceled before the banners even went up. The ripple effects are savage, not just for tourists, but for millions of American workers whose paychecks depend on them. From the deserts of Arizona to the skyscrapers of New York, the collapse is spreading fast. And as we break down the city-by-city devastation, you'll see why this fee might be the most expensive mistake in U.S. tourism history. Like, subscribe, and keep watching. The numbers ahead will stun you. Tucson, Arizona, the warning signs began here. Before July, this desert city's tourism calendar was packed. European hikers filling trailheads, Canadian snowbirds filling golf courses, Asian tour groups snapping shots in Saguaro National Park. But now, a 32% drop in foreign travelers in just 6 weeks. Entire hotel wings are sitting dark. Restaurants that once booked out for months now close midweek to save on wages. 40% of tourism-dependent businesses have already laid off staff or shut down entirely. Even the airport's long-awaited expansion, a $75 million project, is on ice, contractors told to wait until next year. And this was only the first domino. Head north to Spokane, Washington, a place that thrives on seasonal tourism. In summer, the lakes, hiking trails, and music festivals pull in visitors from across the globe. But a 13% decline in J-1 visas has gutted the seasonal workforce. Resorts are chronically understaffed, check-in lines crawl for hours, and 2 of the city's biggest summer festivals have been canceled outright. Hotels report they're operating at 60% of normal capacity. Not because demand vanished entirely, but because they simply can't staff the rooms. Then comes New Orleans, a city whose very soul is its cultural magnetism. Jazz clubs, second-line parades, and food festivals draw millions every year. But this year's French Quarter Festival tells a darker story. International attendance down 35%, revenue down 42%, and multiple headlining acts canceling due to poor ticket sales. Streets that should be humming with brass bands are strangely muted. Shop owners whisper about the summer that killed the quarter. Kansas City, Missouri, usually a quiet Middle America success story in tourism, has a specific nightmare on the horizon: the 2026 FIFA World Cup. City officials were banking on an influx of South American and African fans to inject hundreds of millions into the local economy. But with tour groups from these regions down 47%, the city now projects a $220 million shortfall in expected World Cup revenue. Hotel developers are pulling financing. Small businesses that stocked up early for the boom are staring at empty order books. The drop-off isn't just hitting smaller or mid-tier cities. The financial epicenters are feeling it harder. New York City, the beating heart of U.S. tourism, has been dealt a staggering blow. 2 million fewer tourists than this time last year. A $4 billion loss in visitor spending gone. And here's the kicker. The city's tourism board, strapped for cash from declining revenue, has slashed international marketing campaigns, which means fewer ads, fewer bookings, and an even steeper decline ahead. It's a feedback loop spiraling downward. Meanwhile, in Orlando, Florida, the so-called magic capital of the U.S., the magic is fading. J-1 visa declines have left theme parks understaffed, forcing the cancellation of shows and daily parades. Guests who traveled thousands of miles now face shuttered attractions and multi-hour waits for the rides that are still open. Local hotel owners report occupancy down by double digits, and the surrounding restaurants are cutting shifts. Orlando's global reputation, built over decades, is now under threat in just months. Chicago, Illinois, known for its architecture, museums, and summer festivals, is seeing its signature boat tours run at half capacity. International bookings for cultural programs have plummeted, leading to cancellations. Even the city's celebrated summer music series has had to downsize due to weak ticket sales. For a city that thrives on cultural exchange, the loss is more than economic, it's identity shaking. Miami, Florida, the glittering, sun-soaked tourism powerhouse, is discovering that even paradise can be empty. Online searches for Miami vacations from abroad are down 15%, but the real pain is in the numbers. Resorts report 20 to 35% revenue drops, and restaurants along Ocean Drive are quietly laying off staff. Luxury boat rentals, a staple for wealthy international visitors, are gathering dust at the docks. In Los Angeles, California, the Hollywood dream is losing its shine. Bookings for studio and celebrity home tours are down 37%. Film productions that relied on international crews and talent are facing delays. Cultural festivals are reporting attendance declines of up to 40%, with sponsors pulling out at the last minute. For a city that sells stories to the world, the irony is bitter. And finally, San Francisco, already grappling with high costs and a struggling downtown, is being hit in its global education and cultural sectors. F1 and J1 visa approvals are down 20%, international student enrollment has dropped 22%, and Chinatown has seen 30% of its businesses close within months. Tourist buses that once clogged Grant Avenue now pass through half-empty streets. City after city, the pattern is the same. Fewer visitors, less spending, fewer jobs, and a growing sense that this isn't just a slow season, but the beginning of something much worse. But this wasn't the whole story. The next wave of impacts would reach beyond tourism, hitting real estate markets, local tax bases, and even the political calculus in Washington itself. The economic fallout from the $250 visa fee is no longer confined to hotels, restaurants, and festivals. It's bleeding into every corner of city economies. Take Tucson again. With tourism-related tax revenue collapsing, the city has frozen infrastructure upgrades. Road repairs are delayed, public transit expansion shelved, and a proposed cultural center meant to draw visitors year-round has been canceled entirely. Small business owners are reporting steep declines in foot traffic, with some shifting to part-time operations just to stay afloat. The knock-on effect? Less sales tax revenue for the city, meaning cuts to public services. In Spokane, the labor shortages triggered by fewer J1 visa workers have forced resorts to close entire sections during peak season. The cancellations of summer festivals haven't just hurt the events themselves. Local craft vendors, food trucks, and musicians who depend on these gatherings for income are seeing their busiest season wiped out. City planners now worry the cultural momentum that took years to build could vanish in a single summer. New Orleans is facing an even deeper crisis. The French Quarter's decline is spreading outward, hitting Bourbon Street bars, Creole restaurants, and the riverfront tourist cruises. A growing number of musicians have left the city altogether, seeking work in Nashville or Austin, draining the local talent pool. Hoteliers warn that if the trend continues, the city's ability to recover to pre-2025 visitor levels could take a decade. Kansas City's World Cup worries are escalating. International airlines are scaling back flights in advance, citing reduced demand. Sports bars that invested heavily in upgrades for the 2026 fan surge are now unsure if they'll recoup the cost. City economists are warning that property values in downtown areas, inflated by the expectation of World Cup tourism, may face a sharp correction. In New York, the losses have begun to snowball. With fewer tourists booking shows, Broadway is trimming schedules and canceling underperforming productions. Luxury retailers along Fifth Avenue, who rely heavily on international shoppers, report sales down 28%. And the city's hotel industry, already hit by a post-pandemic glut of rooms, is now slashing prices to historic lows just to attract domestic travelers. That keeps the lights on but destroys margins. Orlando's problem has become more than just empty hotel rooms. The city's massive convention industry, which depends on a steady flow of international attendees, is seeing cancellations for events in late 2025 and early 2026. Tourism officials warned that corporate planners, once they remove Orlando from their rotation, may not return for years. The city's theme parks, facing the same labor shortages as before, are being forced to prioritize high-revenue activities, leaving smaller attractions permanently closed. Chicago's tourism downturn is spilling into its real estate market. Short-term rental owners who relied on a steady flow of international visitors are defaulting on mortgages, dumping properties on the market, and driving down prices in key neighborhoods. Cultural institutions, from the Art Institute to smaller immigrant-run heritage museums, are slashing hours and staff. Without the steady infusion of global visitors, the city's identity as an international hub is eroding. Miami's slowdown is sending shivers through its luxury sector. Yacht brokers, high-end realtors, and private aviation companies all report deal flow drying up. South American buyers, who often combine tourism with property shopping, are largely staying away. Local leaders fear this could undercut Miami's global brand as a playground for the wealthy, with long-term consequences for its tax base. In Los Angeles, the impact on the entertainment industry is becoming harder to ignore. International film festivals are scaling back, with fewer foreign entries and diminished sponsorship. The city's sprawling hospitality industry, from boutique hotels in West Hollywood to beachfront resorts in Santa Monica, is reporting layoffs in the thousands. The talent pipeline from abroad, critical to the city's creative ecosystem, is shrinking as fewer artists and technicians are willing to pay the new visa premium. San Francisco's situation may be the most dangerous of all. International students, a major contributor to the city's universities and rental market, are turning to Canada, Australia, and the UK instead. The loss of this population is leaving apartments vacant, reducing demand for local services, and undercutting one of the city's few stable economic pillars. Chinatown's closures aren't just a cultural loss. They're removing one of the city's most marketable tourism draws. Across the country, local governments are confronting the same dilemma: raise taxes to fill the gap, or cut services and watch decline set in. Either option risks making cities even less appealing to visitors. And the tourism industry, unlike manufacturing or tech, can't simply reshore lost demand. Once a city loses its place in the global travel rotation, it can take years, sometimes decades, to claw it back. The visa fee was meant to generate revenue, and, in some corners of Washington, to send a political message about valuing entry to the United States. But the reality playing out is brutally clear. The fee is costing far more than it's bringing in. A short-term gain for the federal ledger has triggered a long-term drain on the economies of America's most vibrant cities. And what happens next may be worse, because the damage isn't just economic. America's image as an open, welcoming destination is fading fast, replaced by a perception of bureaucracy, cost, and cold calculation. That kind of brand damage doesn't just hurt tourism. It ripples into trade, diplomacy, and even the cultural influence the U.S. has long taken for granted. The $250 visa fee was pitched as a simple policy, a minor cost with a big payoff. Instead, it's triggered an economic chain reaction that's gutting cities from Tucson to New York, drying up jobs, slashing tax revenues, and hollowing out America's global reputation. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Even if Washington rolled it back tomorrow, the damage is already baked in. Lost festivals, shuttered businesses, and canceled trips can't be undone. Once the flow of global visitors finds new destinations, Canada, Europe, Southeast Asia, getting them back is a long, uphill climb. So what do you think? Is this just a temporary dip that the U.S. can recover from, or the beginning of a permanent decline in America's role as the world's top travel destination? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every one. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, hit the like button, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. The numbers we're tracking next are even worse.